Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the last video I'm doing on Lords of the Fallen here. Now this is actually a bit of post commentary because I wanted to explain why I'm not playing Lords of the Fallen anymore. And I know I said in the last few videos I was kind of enjoying it. Well, today really changed that for me. You see, this video is taken from my attempts to do the third boss in the game, which is the Worshipper. And this fight kind of solidified for me everything that's wrong with this game. And I'm not saying that it's a bad game, but I'm saying that what it's doing quite wrong, and I don't like it. For a start, you've got this guy, he's going to burst out the ground in a second here. He's pretty much one of the most uninspired designs for a boss I've seen in a long time. Here he is, look at him. Big guy, big pickaxe. He's not really intimidating, he's a bit spiky, he's not very nice. But this boss is pretty much everything that's wrong with Lords of the Fallen. Now, I've made a lot when I've been talking in commentaries about how this game is very embarrassingly similar to Dark Souls in places. And it really is. I mean, it's not by any stretch of the imagination different from Dark Souls. There's not a lot it does that is actually different, but the problems that I'm having is, whereas Dark Souls is really refined, it's difficult, but it's never unfair. Lords of the Fallen, to me, anyway, I mean, you might think differently on this one, and if you do, that is perfectly fine, that's up to you, it's your opinion of the game. But to me, this game isn't fair, in the same way that Dark Souls is. For starters, I mean, this guy I'm fighting here, I've got 100% damage reduction shield, and every time I'm blocking an attack, well, I didn't block an attack there, but every time I'm blocking the attack, I'm taking damage, and that, to me, doesn't actually suggest that it's damage reducing at all. I mean, it's less damage than if I were to not defend, but still, I shouldn't be taking damage on 100% damage reduction shield. Then there is this whole aspect of that the bosses, you can see the health bar along the top, separated into quarters. Now this means when you hit a quarter, the boss changes his attack style. And it can vary, it can be wildly different how he's fighting at the beginning of the fight to how he fights at the end of the fight. And especially in the case of this boss, this is what I don't like. You see these little blue things here that appear, I'm just destroying them here. What these are eggs that spawn two enemies. I think one of them will jump out, here it is. There he is. Now these things just chew through your stamina and destroy you and all that. And this is the big problem I'm having. Because Dark Souls, I mean, in both the Dark Souls games, there are 3 boss fights-ish, where you have to fight multiple enemies, at least on your first playthrough. And they are balanced in such a way that you're already well into the kind of the swing of the fight by the time you're having to deal with the second entity, with the exception of Ornstein Smough and Twin Dragon Riders, I think. But anyway, once you've dispatched one, they don't come again. You see, he's brought 2 more eggs back here. Basically what happens is every minute he starts spawning these enemies. And there you go, I've just died. Yeah, every minute or so he starts spawning these enemies, which mean you have to deal with them and get them dealt with quickly. Now the same thing happened in the Commander boss fight. The difference being there, though, the Commander wasn't actually attacking you at the time, so the Commander would summon 2 enemies, and then he'd go down the ground. You couldn't hit him, but he wouldn't do anything to you. So you had time to dispatch these enemies, then go back to the boss. That was fine. It was a little bit annoying, but I didn't mind that. Now here I'm debating which equipment to use for this particular fight. But the Worshipper kind of justifies to me that the game is quite unfair with how it deals with the player. The normal combat when you're fighting enemies is nice and challenging. It's a little bit difficult. I died a few times to regular enemies just because I wasn't, I wasn't doing it properly. I wasn't watching what they were doing at any given point. But the boss fights are such a huge difficulty spike in a way that just shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be this difficult to defeat the 3rd boss in the game. I can understand if this was the last boss. The last boss is supposed to be a challenge. Whereas, ironically enough, in the 2 Dark Souls games, the last boss has always been quite easy. It's always been the bosses leading up to him, or her, in the case of Nashandra, where the bosses have been a challenge. But this guy is just ridiculous. And there are cheats and tips and ways to get around this guy, but it's just impossible to make him actually act the way you want to. It's impossible to kite the right attack at the right time. I'm trying to do it here. I'm trying to get him to smash that altar, and he eventually does it there. Because then he goes down like that, and I can use this magic thing, which gives me infinite stamina for a short period of time, and I can wail on him. That's great, if you can get that regularly. But then there's also the really unpredictable nature of the boss, and you probably won't see this because I'm not going to show. I spent about an hour trying to deal with this guy. But when he gets much further down in his health bar, the amount of time between his attacks reduces exponentially. So it's actually, it gets harder to attack him, and he spawns more of these little enemy things. And to me, again, that isn't fair. That is not treating the player fairly, because you can't land any hits on him. You've got multiple enemies to deal with at any given time. It's artificially difficult. Rather than the boss just being a challenge in himself, you have these things that can knock you over, which is shit. Then he's doing this attack, which means I've got to run, which means I can't get anywhere near him because that attack follows you. And then he swipes around, and it's really fucking hard for me to defend his attacks. And I mean, I've had a lot of people saying to me that I'm not getting the timing right, and that is fair enough, because it took me a long time to get the timing right for Dark Souls and Demon Souls. But you see, there again, straight away, more things spawning. It's just, it's endurance, really. I mean, the boss fights, I've looked online. I mean, I've watched other people's videos. All the boss fights in the early game take about 10-15 minutes to deal with, and that is just far too long. That's like attrition, that is like, boss fights to me should be, they shouldn't be short, but there should be punctuation to a level. It shouldn't take me longer to get to defeat the boss than it does that for me to actually get to it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can run, especially the bit up into the commander, you can get from the beginning of that level to the commander in minutes, but it took me, I think the final fight for me to beat the commander was about 15 minutes, which is just ridiculous. So this is why I'm not going to be playing Lords of the Fallen anymore, because it's not fair. And I think the reason why I'm finding it so unfair is that Dark Souls is spoiling me, because Dark Souls is fair. It is fucking hard, don't get me wrong, it is one of the most difficult games I've ever played. But I never feel like the game is cheating me, where when you're getting a boss fight like this guy, look at that, no sooner had I just dealt with the other guys, he did another attack, and then he's spawning these guys again. You know, this game to me feels unfair, especially in the way its boss fights are set up. I mean, I've done 3 boss... this is the 3rd boss. First boss was tricky, but that's because I was still learning the game. But he was a big guy with a sword and a heavy shield. Second one, the commander, was very difficult. Again, he was a big guy with a sword and a shield, but then he was spawning enemies. I eventually got around him because I worked out his attack pattern. But this guy, I mean, I know his attack pattern, I know how to defend against him, and I know how to beat him. But it's these little dickheads that he keeps summoning are just so ridiculously difficult to deal with. If there were any other enemy, I probably wouldn't care. I mean, they're not that strong, but what they do is they charge at you, they knock you over, which I think he does it here. There you go, it knocks me down. Kind of got caught by the boss's attack there, but we get to this point now where the boss is constantly attacking because I've got him at half health. So it is constant aggression from the boss. There you go, he's summoned. Oh no, he's not summoning there, he's throwing stuff at us. In a minute he'll summon again. Oh no, he'll do the fucking spike attack thing. I don't know what to say. I knew coming into it that it was going to be similar to Dark Souls, but different. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I like the actual day-to-day combat, the normal levels. The normal levels so far have been quite nicely challenging. You know, a nice selection of enemies. The enemies are kind of well designed. Some of them are real fucking tanks that are impossible to deal with. This guy just keeps fucking knocking me over. I think I die almost at this point. Do I die here? I think I might do, actually. No, I don't want to heal. But either way, yeah, the normal day-to-day fighting is fine. I can deal with that. That's brilliant. I like that much. But the boss fights, on a game like this, the boss fights are supposed to be memorable, engaging, exciting events, and I'm dreading them. And I think that is the problem. And don't get me wrong, it's not because it's a hard game. I'm not giving up because it's difficult. Because you know what? I've played so many difficult games, and so many games where I haven't actually had an issue dealing with them. But this boss fight just sealed it for me. It's just like, it's not the game for me. It might be the game for you. I mean, like I said, I like difficult games. I'm so looking forward to Bloodborne, and I know that is a difficult game. But again, it's those same FromSoft mechanics. You know, it is fair. It knows what it's doing, and it's not fucking you about for the sake of it. So, if you were enjoying Lords of the Fallen, I am really sorry, but for me, the game isn't what I thought it would be. It isn't what I expected it to be or what I hoped it would be. At the end of the day, it is monumentally unfair. And again, it's all down to the way the boss fights are tailored. So, like I say, if you're disappointed, I am really sorry. But I'm not going to continue with it, because at the end of the day, I do YouTube for fun. And I'm not having fun playing this game. You know, it's like when I come to record it, I'm actually trying to find reasons not to play it. It's like I'd rather do fucking housework than play this game at times. So, thank you for watching, and thank you for those who have liked this and who have supported me playing it. You're all awesome. I would encourage everyone to give this game a try, because you know what? You never know, it might be for you. But what I would say is, if you've played the Souls games, especially as much as I've played them, and that's all the way back to Demon Souls, so Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, and especially if you're looking forward to Bloodborne, this is not the game for you. Now, if you're looking for a challenge, but you weren't a fan of the Souls games, you'll hate this. You really will. But if you're looking for a good fantasy challenge, and you're looking for something that's ridiculously difficult, this might be right up your alley. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say on the subject. So thank you for watching. And like I say, if you have enjoyed the series, thank you so much for the support on it. But this will be the last time you see me play Lords of the Fallen. I'll be probably trading in this game fairly soon. Probably for Bloodborne, if I'm honest. So probably at the end of March I'll trade this in. So for now, thank you and good night.